Welcome to Canada's Entrepreneur, where we talk to the entrepreneurs who are making it happen across Canada and deliver the news, trends, knowledge, and opinions from entrepreneurs and business influencers across the country.
Hello, I'm Mario Toneguzzi, Managing Editor of Canada's Entrepreneur. Joining me today on Calgary's podcast is Sharon Hapton, who is founder and CEO of Soup Sisters and Huggin' a Bowl Enterprises. Thanks for joining us today, Sharon.
Thank you, Mario. Thanks for having me.
Okay, maybe you can explain both those entities and
Okay.
what it is that you do.
Well, I'll start with the first one, and that is the Soup Sisters charity. And that one I founded in 2009 with a soup making birthday party. I invited about 30 girlfriends to a cooking school here in Calgary, where I'm from. And we made about 200 liters of soup that night for the Calgary Women's Emergency Shelter, now known as Fear is Not Love. But that was like something that they'd never seen in terms of a gesture. We delivered a massive amount of fresh soup to the shelter for women and children fleeing family violence and domestic abuse. It was all about the messaging and the care, and that there's complete strangers in the community here for you. So that's how that part started. And then over the years, we grew that concept to 27 cities across the country.
Wow.
So we were operating community soup making events in 27 cities. And the soup was going to women and children and youth in crisis. And then 2020 came, and as with most businesses, charities, our model adapted and changed, and we started Canada's first ever soup bank. And that kind of leads to the second part of your question in terms of our Huggin' a Bowl Enterprises, which is fairly new, starting now, actually, where we're going into food services. And the social enterprise piece is that sales support the charity.
Oh, so the sales are taking place where?
All over the country. So we've got, we're registered with Cisco and GFS, which are, two of, I think, North America's largest food distribution companies. And we are making the soup at a production facility in Edmonton. And that's kind of what started in 2020, because, I'll always remember that on March 11th, 2020, the pandemic was declared official. And at that point, we had provided what we call a Huggin' a Bowl to over 4 million people across the country through the community soup making events. And then they came to a halt on March 11th.
Yeah.
I was at an event here in Calgary and thought, oh my God, what happens now? Anything that was community shut down that day. And that's when I made a phone call to a food distribution commercial production facility that I knew in Edmonton. And I said, can you make the soup? And they were like, we can make it, because I was obsessing, of course, on how to maintain the giving that we had platformed for agencies all over the country. And they started making soup for us in large kettle quantities, like 2,600 pounds of flavor. And my next, hurdle was, how do I get it delivered? Yesterday I had volunteers delivering soup. And I'd love to share this story, because it's huge for me and for our transition of how we managed to stay in this giving mode. I cold called the president of what at the time was VersaCold Logistics, refrigerated trucking facility company. Mm-hmm. And they're now Lineage. I cold called him and I said, and it was, COVID for him too. It was COVID for everybody. Yeah. We were all in, disarray. And I said, I can get the soup made in, large quantities, but how, can you help me? I need to now get it delivered. And he got back to me 4 days later. So since 2020, Lineage has pro bono been delivering soup right across the country for Soup Sisters to agencies everywhere.
Wow.
Pretty incredible.
Wow. Yeah. It is. What, maybe backtrack for a second.
Sure.
What got you, like, into this whole thing? What was there something that sparked your interest in doing this? What was it?
Yeah, it was sort of a few things that culminated at the time that it was meant to culminate. One of them is that both my kids were leaving for university, and I was going through what I call, my giant nurture void. Well, there's nothing more nurturing than soup. So,
Yeah, oh, yeah, that's
yeah,
true.
right? Yeah, universal comfort food. And I think at the same time, I had also been to a fundraiser for the Calgary Women's Emergency Shelter, and really for the first time understood that women and children fled their home with nothing. Not their pet, not their lipstick, like literally with nothing, and that had a profound impact on me. And honestly, one day I was walking my dog one day, just me and the dog, and thinking as I did on these walks, and about what I was going to become. I was approaching 50. That was the birthday where I started it. And I realized that I had been a soup maker all my life for family and friends. That's what I did. I delivered them soup.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just showed up and they were like, "How did you know?" And I'm like, "I knew, here I am." And I realized it had the power to change their day. So all of these thoughts really came to me. And then I had that birthday party that, provided so much soup for the emergency shelter. And had it ended there, it was an incredible night.
Yeah.
But it took off like crazy. Yeah,
What did you mean?
it took off.
What do you mean by the power to change their day?
The gesture. I really mean the gesture, so that when you show up to somebody and you say, "I see you, I care," and here's a bowl of nurturing, nourishing soup. I honestly understood that it did have the power to change someone's day. And since then, I've seen that over and over in other populations. I'm talking about, I started this with friends and family, that delivery, but now, those 4 million bowls of soup have gone to marginalized populations, people who we don't always look at when we walk past them on the street. And it's very powerful. And I have to say, I've never seen such gratitude, authentic gratitude, as when that exchange happens. It's pretty incredible and necessary. They need the nourishment. So,
Why do you think soup is, I guess, such a powerful comfort food for people?
I think it's like, I think it's been that way for hundreds of years, and I think it starts with the family. It's really interesting to me how many people I come across that have a soup story. Like I honestly, one of my taglines is "Every good soup has a story." I really believe that, but so many people go back into their memory of mom or grandma, and I've seen that so many times with kids who are on the street. Like they actually thank us for something that they know has taken place in their life. They feel the connection, they feel the repeat. They've been there, and now they're in this other place, and someone's actually taking the time to give them something that meant something to them. It's the universal comfort food. There's no doubt in my mind.
Do you have a favorite?
I do. There's a mushroom, bean, and barley soup that we produce, and it's actually, I don't know if you know who Bonnie Stern is.
Yes.
She's lovely, like in Toronto, and she's a chef and she's a cookbook author. That recipe from one of her early Heart Smart cookbooks is the one that I made over and over and over and delivered to people for so many years. And that was the one where I had that epiphany, like, why isn't everybody delivering soup? Why aren't we just doing this, in a really grand, large scale way?
So how many different types of soups do you guys make?
Well, for the soup making events, we've got a repertoire of about 40 different soups that we make. And we've got cookbooks, and our cookbooks have very elaborate. We're not doing that. We're making really hearty, nourishing soups for social service agencies. And there's about 40 different recipes that get used that way. But for our soup bank, the ones that we're producing large scale, we've got 7 different varieties used, is what they're called. And so for agencies that we're supporting, they any given month can choose from probably about 4 different flavors each month. Yeah.
How many soups, servings of soups would you think you distribute each year?
I would say probably over 100,000. And what I love about it is that it's so intentional. So there's nothing random about receiving an all-encompassing meal that way. And I think it's really important. I think we underestimate how difficult it can be for some people just to get out of bed in the morning, and to be able to offer something that is just heat and serve and ready for your family
Mhm.
right now feels really, really monumental.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah. Now, before starting up the enterprises, the Hug and the Bowl enterprises,
yeah.
it's a social enterprise. Like, how was Soup Sisters funded, and how did you guys manage to operate?
Well, we are incredibly small administratively for the size of what we do.
Yeah.
And that's got a lot to it. So like with any charity, we rely on donations. But I remember years ago when I launched Soup Sisters in Victoria,
Hmm.
we had, cooking schools were our partner all over the country. And so I remember she said, and Soup Sisters is, self-sustaining. I went, oh yeah, that's right. We're self-sustaining. So on a certain level, our model has always been incredibly simple and self-sustaining. And as I say, like administratively, what we do is so simple because we partner in all the right places
Hmm.
to make this happen. And we partner with the corporate world, and that makes a big difference. So for them, they get to have a little piece of purpose meets profit, and it's a feel good all around for everybody.
Mhm.
So, moving forward with our Hug in a Bowl, when a senior residence or a restaurant, when somebody buys our soup from the distribution, they'll know that they're supporting the Soup Sisters Agency, where we're providing soup to so many people who are, needing that nourishment.
Sorry, what year did you start all this?
2009.
2009.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when you look back, like it must be mind-boggling to think back of, when you first started to what you are now.
It's mind-boggling, and yet it's somehow along the way, it's like we always knew what the next step was. There's something so intuitive about building that way. And so it is mind-boggling, and it's like I always say my computer's my brain, because it's like, if I need to look up something, I can find it in my computer. It's not here anymore. This is finite, right? Stuff falls off. Yeah.
Now you said the facilities in Edmonton,
Yes. Yeah.
and what do you have there? Like what's there? Like how big is
We
it?
have, oh, we have a partnership there. That's what we have.
Oh,
So
okay.
this is a commercial production facility that might make products, soup or sauces for big chains like Tom's House of Pizza. But so what we've done is we are actually a wholesaler that doesn't mark up for the social service industry. But Hug in a Bowl now is going to have a markup that shows us some profit that goes back to the charity.
Okay.
So when I say that we run lean, we do. We've never had our own commercial kitchen. We've always partnered. We've never had our trucks to. We've partnered. We're just partnered with people in all the right places that understood the value of what we present. There's actually, in a lot of ways, there's just nothing like it, in terms of agencies and charities and food. I mean, most stuff is very much like, the basket of really great nourishing things that people need, but not the instant meal. And yet we have that, don't we? Like we have, we can make a phone call and have it delivered. I mean, we've
Yeah.
got that,
Yeah.
right? So,
How is it packaged?
oh, it's packaged in 20-pound boxes, flash frozen. So
Uh,
it's frozen solid. So when an agency receives it, they thaw it, they cut open a bag. There's 5 4-pound bags in every box, and basically heat and serve it. Mustard Seed in Calgary, they serve our soup every single day for lunch.
Wow.
Every single day. Yeah.
That's a lot
Yeah.
of people to go through too.
Oh, it is. And they know that they can't make it at the price that we can provide it for.
Yeah.
So,
So basically, as you said, you started, looking at the and women who were, had problems or had,
yes,
crises,
yes.
I guess. So now it's kind of evolved to people that need food, right?
Yeah, because hunger is such an epidemic. There's 8.7 million Canadians facing food insecurity.
It's
One in four kids are going to school hungry. So it started off as the big giant nurture 15 years ago, but it's become so important in food insecurity.
Okay.
Yeah.
And can you maybe describe sort of the range of places
Yeah.
that receive
Yeah.
the soup?
Yeah. One of the most interesting to me in terms of me just understanding what's out there and what's available and not really always knowing is so many agencies and centers for drug addiction are using our soup. And what's so important about that is they can't start working with people until they're nourished. That's the starting point. And that kind of rings true on so many levels. You can only begin to help people when they're properly nourished. So that was a really big one. Kids, youth in crisis, 16 to 24 typically, who are, going from street culture into mainstream society, another really important one. It's all so important. We're still supporting all the same women's shelters all across the country. Everybody has very limited food budgets. I mean, they really do. All of these agencies do.
Yeah. What do you think the future lies for you folks in starting up the enterprise, the social enterprise, and what's that going to mean?
Yeah.
We're all
I think it's going to help us stay focused on who we are at the core. I think when the social enterprise, and it's so new, Mario, but when it reaches a point that it's supporting the charity, what's so important about that is we can take our time and energy and put it where we really, really want to, and that's in the people we serve, as opposed to writing all of these, requests and letters and thanking people all day long. It's onerous. It's tough. I mean, that doesn't happen in any other sector other than the charitable sector, where we actually get drawn away from our mandate to be thankful and to be asking all the time. I'm hoping for this freedom, where the same product, the same hug in a bowl. I think what's so important is that we are providing to, food services the very same soup that we give to people who are food insecure, and that's huge for me. It's the same soup. It's what you would put on your own table. That feels incredibly important.
Excellent. Well, thanks so much, Sharon, for joining us today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that was Sharon Hapton, who is founder and CEO of Soup Sisters and Hug in a Bowl Enterprises. I'm Mario Toneguzzi, managing editor of Canada's Entrepreneur. Thanks for joining us today.